Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters and one psychic brother. You might see that we have a guest today, whenever you're listening. We're so happy to have him here. I'll tell you a little more about that in a minute. We want to let you know that this is a special just for Patreon episode. And so, first of all, and always, we want to give our heartfelt thanks to our patrons for all of your support. We literally could not do what we do without the financial support that you guys offer us. So we always thank you very much. We certainly consider you as a part of our little inner true crime circle here, an integral part of it, because you guys help us a lot. So thank you. So this episode is specifically for you guys because we love you. And because we said we would. So there you go.
Boom and boom. Yes.
Yeah. So we do have a guest today. This is my son. This is my son, Mykah. Hello.
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Glad you're here.
First time being on a podcast with you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I hope I have some insight that I can share that'll be interesting.
I'm pretty
I
sure
believe you will.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Mykah's joining us because he's heading into his senior year of college. He's a psychology major and a criminology minor. And so he's had a lot of crim classes here this last year or so. And his most recent class was a serial killers class. So you can imagine the kind of dinner table conversations we've been having.
Mhm.
Yep.
But everyone else
Yes, I
gets
can.
sick of us. But yeah, us three, we're in like Flynn. But
Totally.
at any rate, one of the topics that has come up lots of times that is one of the trippiest parts of true crime is murderabilia. And if you're not familiar with murderabilia, we're going to define that for you and share some instances so that we can make your head spin about as much as ours have. So, so Mykah, first and foremost, will you please define murderabilia for us?
Yeah, for sure. So, murderabilia is a term that we use to identify collectibles that are then related to murders, homicides, and other violent crimes. So, an example of that would be if you had a violent crime done by anyone, but that piece could then be sold at auction or through individuals or through museums and then be put onto view or in a collection. So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be surrounded by the violent crime itself. It can just be a personal belonging of a serial killer or a violent perpetrator. So that's where a distinction comes, is that it could just be something like a prisoner's card that the prison might have, and it could also be a weapon or a scalpel that was used in a murder.
Wow.
Yikes.
Okay.
This is kind of where I draw the line, I like true crime, but whoa.
Right. This is one, we talked about this a little bit not too long ago when we covered Ed Gein.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed Gein was actually buried in the cemetery in his hometown. I can't imagine those people wanted him there, but that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
But his headstone eventually had to be removed because people wouldn't quit chipping pieces off of it and selling them.
Mm-hmm. It's so surprising.
What?
Right.
It is super strange to me. I don't understand it. Like, I want to see these cases like solved and resolved and people protected. Like, I'm not fangirling the murderers here.
People are. When I heard recently that Chad Daybell's books actually are still selling quite well on Amazon because people are so curious about this person and these crazy ass beliefs and stuff.
Right.
Of Chad and Lori, that his work is actually thriving.
That's really weird. I mean, I kind of understand it because they want to understand,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, literally benefiting him. Like when he's making royalty off those books.
Yeah.
I think
To help fund his legal defense or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not much. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Royalty on books through Amazon is hardly anything.
He couldn't be making more than $100 a month or so, if that, but still.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
I had this awful thought of people hopping the fence in Chad's pasture and stealing dirt and selling it.
Gross.
But that's the kind of stuff that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of Ed Gein, I always wondered, they destroyed all the stuff that he made out of human skin. It was all incinerated. But it was a long time ago before this got to be a big thing. But my gosh, can you imagine his lampshade and his human bodysuit
the nipple belt?
Yeah, the nipple belt is just the thing that I'm like, that'd be up on eBay for a ton of money if they could.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, Mykah and I were discussing Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Mykah, tell us a little bit about what happened with Jeffrey Dahmer and his stuff.
Well, so a lot of Dahmer's things got seized by the police, and his estate got divided up between his victims. And then those things that were divided up to the victims' families, they could sell or do whatever they wanted with them as a token from the police and from the Dahmer family to do anything they could to make up for the tragedy that befell their families. And so parts of that were dividing his estate. And those pieces then were gobbled up by collectors. But most of them were collected by one collector in particular.
Wait, I just have to stop for a second. You said gobbled. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, the irony of that is too thick.
Okay, go ahead.
I know. Sorry, you guys are eating this up, aren't you?
Oh my God.
I'm my mother's son, I know.
That's horrifying. Okay, let's go.
But these were then sold to a private collector for upwards of $400,000 worth of memorabilia and such that was then destroyed.
Yeah.
Pieces that now would be worth ungodly amounts of money for collectors and for museums alike, gone.
And we're talking about things like kitchen tools, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it was things like silverware and knives and just things that were in his kitchen or little pieces of just his small estate that were destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. But then his glasses were not, right?
If I can remember right, I was having a hard time looking it up, but from what I remember from some things I've been looked at before is that his glasses didn't.
It's so weird to me that they split stuff up. Like, why would they give that stuff to the families? Like, that's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just part of their, what's the right word? I want to say recompense.
Like
that's not correct, but yeah.
Restitution, yeah. But they should have just sold the whole estate and then split the money up. Like, to give them the physical objects is so weird. Like, that's super weird.
In other cases, that is what they did. Those estates would be sold, and then all the money that came from that would then go to the victims and the relief of the families from the victims, and to help pay for things like funerals and to just pay for damages and emotional damages that came along with these serial killers. And that's a more common thing that will happen. And a lot of museums and collectors, when they buy, they are very specific that the things that they buy have to be going toward the victims, and that it's not for personal gain, and people aren't just out here grabbing up whatever they can from an estate sale and then selling it off for, you don't know if it's real or not real, or just assume that it is, or
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So they're pretty careful. Most collectors are pretty careful about that, watching out for scams and things like that. But
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's silverware, that's how you gonna prove that?
True.
yeah,
But that's a damn gross thing to get from Dahmer. Like, oh,
Right?
it is.
Like, who wants that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you want to hear some expensive pieces of murderabilia?
Yeah.
So, Bonnie and Clyde, right? Everyone knows Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Right?
They ravaged their way across America, and they were famously gunned down in Louisiana. So, in 2012, a 1911 Colt 45 pistol that was taken off of Clyde's body when he was killed was sold for $240,000 for his pistol.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine how much blood that pistol had seen?
A lot. Really, really
How
a lot.
much? It almost makes you wonder about cursed items
Right.
and things that carry so much negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Another one was that you could have bought the Unabomber's hoodie and sunglasses,
Mm.
and
Ooh,
that
from
just
like that famous picture and
Yeah.
Mhm.
the drawing and then the picture. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you imagine that one. That's a lot, I think. I mean, a pistol from the 1930s is pretty cool, but
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. That one, Ted Kaczynski was just not right.
No. No. Yeah, that's yikes.
But I have to wonder with the Murderabilia, what the fascination with the macabre and with these dark parts in history is. And I've seen a lot of people say that it's mostly looking at keeping the history there and not letting the victors rewrite history. Because we have a bad habit of doing that. A lot of people get lost. And if they're not famous enough, they end up getting lost in the history books or in the pages.
It's true.
And so a lot of them see it as it's their job to help this history stay around. But a lot of other people who like to collect this dark macabre things are going through dark parts in their lives. And
Yeah.
that some that are collectors actually end up being murderers or serial killers. So these collectors, they could end up in that place because for some reason they idolize these serial killers and
Mm-hmm.
people that commit violent crimes, and they end up
Yeah.
idolizing them and having this fascination with the way that they are and the way that they act. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty akin to me the way that women in particularly fascinate over serial killers,
Oh yeah. They're always
Oh,
getting
yeah.
married in prison to some dummy. That one
Mm-hmm.
just like, what?
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but what about all the letters and things they're sending out of prison to these women? Isn't that
Yeah, but
crazy that
think about it.
that's,
They're gonna fix them. They're gonna fix them. They would never do that to
oh yeah,
me.
no.
That that's where that comes from, that weird savior
Mhm.
complex that like, oh, he's gonna be better now and he would never do that to me, except that yeah, he definitely would if he wasn't behind bars,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's crazy to me is that a lot of them, like Dahmer, was pretty. Dahmer was married, wasn't he?
No,
Oh, I'm thinking of someone else. My bad.
Ted Bundy.
Oh, I am thinking of Bundy. But yeah, stayed away
Mhm.
from his partner, kept up this charade that just this nice guy. And
Mhm.
yeah, maybe if when they got out of prison, they didn't do that to you, that wouldn't mean that they're not out doing it. Their partners originally didn't know.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah, Bundy is one that is
Hmm.
there's another movie coming out about Ted Bundy.
Yeah, Charles Manson's hair.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
crazy.
I don't know.
I'll pull that up in a minute.
I've seen several of the Bundy movies and they just romanticize him. It's
Mhm.
just gross, man.
They
It's
do.
gross.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the movie that recently came out that had Ross Lynch in it, depicting Jeffrey Dahmer when he was younger.
Oh yes, my friend Dahmer.
Yes,
Did.
my friend Dahmer. And Ross Lynch is notoriously a teenage heartthrob,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the girls that came about my age group, the
Ah, I
19,
didn't know
20,
that.
21-year-olds. We watched him on Disney Channel. We watched him growing up. And for him to land a part of Dahmer is just kind of scary because it's
Mhm.
another way that we're romanticizing serial killers.
Oh,
And
so
sure,
much.
maybe they go in and they dress out and they do the part and they show how creepy or weird these people really were.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, they're still attractive. Now, Dahmer
Right.
was conventionally attractive for his time, but at the
Mhm.
same time, you gotta be careful of that. And Hollywood has not done a really good job of helping us to understand the difference between the fantasizing of the emotional and physical appearances
Yeah.
of serial killers, and they romanticize that they're just broken people and they need to be fixed. And I think that's kind of why these
Mhm.
women look at them like, I can fix them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a savior complex usually
Mm-hmm.
that
And that ties
that
back
goes
a
that
little
way.
bit.
Yeah. And there's so many of them with Ted Bundy. It's just bizarre,
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
gross. But there
Oh
are,
yeah.
the Daybell movie that just came out. Chad Daybell in that movie is the guy that plays him is way more handsome and romantic and charismatic than Chad Daybell.
Uh,
Resting toad face actually is.
sex and
Yeah.
murder sell tickets.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
And when you can start combining those things into these movies and media, you're going to sell. And that's the ticket. Is they always say sex sells, but so does murder, and
Yep.
so does
Mm-hmm.
gruesome.
Hmm.
People are, as much as we like to assume that we are these savior-like people to these people that might need us, we just want to see how far you can actually go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think we also want to understand too. I think for
Hmm.
those of us who are not psychopaths, we can't understand why they do what they do. And so we
Yeah.
have to put, you know, for me, I know that's the thing that I'm fascinated by uh, serial killers and psychopaths and, profiling and that kind of thing. And it's because
Yeah.
it is because I just want to get it. Like I have never wanted to do something like what they've done once in my whole life.
Hmm.
And I can't imagine it. And I think, it is trying to understand.
Yeah.
What's so crazy about psychopaths too, and sociopaths especially as well, is that there's so many people that are afflicted that are sociopaths or psychopaths that walk in our regular day-to-day life, and you
Yeah.
would have no idea. And then one
Oh, I
starts
don't know. I
doing
think
some
we've
off
all
the
worked for
wall.
one at one time or another.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
that's what they say is sociopaths are very good bosses. They're very good at making hard decisions because they don't allow themselves to be stuck with emotion,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and end
totally.
up being really good, productive people in society, doing the things that are too hard for people with regular working emotions to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they can be brutal
Yeah.
because they
They
don't care.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we really need that. But in a lot of ways, you wouldn't know. Someone that's grown up and learned emotion, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And that's what's
Yeah.
crazy is that you'll have some here or there come out, and you just kind of end up labeling all these people that are end up being serial killers as being psychopaths or sociopaths, and it gives such a negative stigma to people that actually are afflicted, and they see that it's not a safe place for them to come and speak to their friends or their family or talk to people about that they are afflicted from that mental um, Yeah, but they're afflicted, and
Well,
it's hard
we
for
tend
them
to
to talk
think that,
about it.
Yeah.
and we tend to think that people feel and respond and think the same ways that we do. And so we don't realize that there are people out there in the world that don't do that, actually.
Yeah.
We're very good at putting people into boxes,
Mhm.
and it's pretty. For them, it's very sad for those that are that aren't like everyone else.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people that also aren't like everybody else end up in places of violent crime or criminal activity,
Mhm.
and
Well,
that's
if you're talking sociopath or psychopath, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, and
Mhm.
others. I mean, it's such a common response when crimes are committed. Oh, well, they were mentally ill. You know, the idea that everyone who commits a crime is mentally ill, or that everyone who's mentally ill is going to commit a crime, and they're
Right.
certainly not. They don't go
Neither
hand
is
in
true.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah, neither is true.
So I did pick up a few examples of murderabilia to share in case you guys are curious. I and we'll give you a couple of resources too if you want to go check this out more for your own, you know, horrified viewing pleasure. But that is a sketch, piece of artwork from Richard Ramirez in the courtroom.
Oh,
And, and Richard Ramirez is one that has had women falling all over him,
oh yeah, the Night Stalker. Yeah.
all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And then, of
Mhm.
course, I accidentally already showed this, but Charles Manson's hair.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, no, thank you. Here, this beautiful gem. Here is Haddon Clark's earwax.
Ew.
You want some of that? I'm guessing no.
That
Oh
is just
no.
kind
What
of
does that
rank.
say? He sent them with his toenails?
Yeah. Yep.
Gross.
And if you don't know who Haddon Clark was, he killed a 6-year-old little girl in Maryland in '86 and then a 23-year-old in 1992. And then when they arrested him, he admitted to committing a whole bunch more crimes and had a whole jewelry box of souvenirs he had taken from his crimes to prove it.
Mm.
He was a serial killer that was, as usual, under the radar for quite a while.
It's just like Samuel Little. Yikes.
Now, this gem, this is a serial killer out of Mexico. His toenails. Oh, no, his fingernails. Sorry. That seemed long for toenails, didn't it? Fingernails, yeah.
I don't even want my own fingernails. Why would you want some dead serial killer's fingernails?
Right, and you can see the bid was at $300 when the screenshot was taken.
Wow.
Like, what the hell is wrong with people? I have to ask.
Yeah, that's really strange. I don't know. I don't understand it. I mean, I understand collecting things.
But
I'm
the
not
body
sure.
parts? The body parts. The earwax?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you can buy a skull of a serial killer. Did you know that?
No, I thought you could not do that.
Oh yeah. You can buy Peter Curtin's head.
Yuck.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to. I'm too cheap to buy a new purse. There's no way I'm buying a serial killer's head. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's been like autopsied, and they cut it in half to start doing like tests in his brain to see what's wrong with him.
Oh wow.
So it's an autopsied skull and
Wow.
well preserved
How
head.
did that ever get it? The weird thing is, I mean, some of this stuff I understand, but how did that get out on the market? Like,
Right. How did that make it to the public?
yeah.
I mean,
I'm guessing
you
through
can buy
nefarious means.
cadavers. You can buy a cadaver if you have the right connections. You can buy cadavers
Right.
and
Or
all kinds of
credentials.
bodies. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not too
Ugh.
hard to believe if you have something that's past the point of it being controlled, you can have it.
Ugh.
Hmm.
So, if you're curious about checking out a little more about Murderabilia, there is a murder museum. It's literally called Murder Museum.
Hmm.
You can go to their website. I believe they are in Chicago. I'm not entirely sure, but you can go to their website and check them out. They have things for sale. They have lots of murderabilia, and they have lots of ways to connect with them to see what they have going on. It's so that's one option or resource. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are multiple auction sites if you are interested in that kind of thing, which I kind of guess you're not, but you might kill an afternoon looking up stuff and wondering why the hell that's for sale. But
Mm-hmm.
it's all right there, right
I
on
would
the
like
interwebs.
I'd like to point out that with the Murder Museum,
Hmm.
if you were to buy something from them, and that was kind of what you're into, and no hate if that's what you're into, just don't go out killing people for it.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. But everything that they have, all their profits, everything that they get from these pieces go to victim funds,
Good.
as
I
well
like that.
as
Yeah.
authentication, and they go through multiple levels of authentication so that you know you're getting what you're getting.
Wow.
I can
That was
respect
my
that.
question. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
could just stick a Q-tip in my ear and then say it was,
Hmm.
whoever, Ed Gein's earwax. Here you go. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if it's just gonna go to a survivors fund anyway or a victims fund,
what's the
then
harm, right?
yeah, what's the harm? But
Yes. Boy. All
yeah, I think
righty.
that's one thing that makes me happy about that whole thing is that
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is. I mean, if that's what you're doing, supporting groups like that, then that's very important.
Hmm.
hmm
For sure. Well, I think that's where we'll leave it today. So, Micah, thank you for joining us and talking about this, and we'll probably pull you back in and tap your knowledge on other subjects in the future. We are
Yeah.
always, talking crime, so it might be fun to just do a whole episode of, romanticizing serial killers and talk about the whole, all of the dynamics of that and all of the talk about some of the serial killers' relationships and things like that. So,
Hmm.
if you're willing, we'll probably ask you to come back and join us for that one.
That'd
Well,
be
thank
awesome.
you for having me on today, and I've been talking your ear off about this for a while, so I'm glad that you gave me a chance, and I would be more than happy to come back if you ever want to talk again.
Definitely, we will. Well,
Yeah.
and
Very
talk
fun.
our ears off anytime. We love it.
Of course.
Well, again, this has been a production of True Crime Paranormal for Patreon. And again, we want to thank our patrons very much for all of your support. You guys mean the world to us. So thank you. And we'll end it here. So this has been another production of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.